This is Eat, Sleep, Invest, the marketing podcast for real estate investors to get more deals. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Bryan Driscoll. I'm here with Paul Lizell. Hey, what's going on, Paul?
Hey, how you doing, Bryan?
Hey, pretty good. What's cracking?
Not too much, man. I appreciate you having me on here, though.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So Paul's pretty interesting. He's really involved in the real estate space and also in the crypto. So, hey, Paul, give us a little background on everything you're doing.
Sure. So I'll talk first a little bit about the real estate, and then I'll get into the crypto space there too. So I started investing for me way back in 2001, and I was buying mostly HUD properties, right? Bank REOs. But at one point, I did get into the direct mail, right? I was doing the direct mail, the yellow letter, the postcards and all that. But I cut that off in 2013 because I was buying so many properties on online auctions from HUD, other bank REOs, markets all over the country that I just decided I didn't need to do any more marketing. So now we literally just buy on online auctions. For the most part, we buy some from wholesalers too. We do get off-market properties because we made a bunch of great relationships with realtors over the years, and they bring us deals as well. So they're all deals with no marketing costs whatsoever. So we ended up buying in 44 out of 50 states so far. We probably won't get to 50 because there's certain states that just don't care to buy in, right? That it's more of an issue to deal with them than it is to actually be worthwhile and make the money out of. So we target certain states, obviously ones that we really, really like. And as you know now, the Sun Belt's probably a big one, right? Because everybody wants to be in the Sun Belt right now. That's kind of what's led us there into the real estate space and into the cryptos. So I got into the cryptos early in 2017. Bitcoin was like kind of about $1,200, $1,500. I think it was around $1,200 when I very first bought some. And then it started to really shoot up. You guys remember that at the end of 2017, it went up to like 17, close to 20,000, I think, at the end of the year, and then tanked in 2018. And I just kept dollar cost average. And what I would do for every real estate deal I did, if it was a smaller margin one, I put $500 into cryptos. Was a bigger margin one, I put 1,000, sometimes a little bit more here and there. So I ended up putting a pretty good amount into Bitcoin, a little bit in Ethereum, Litecoin, Cardano, and others over the years, and just kept building out my portfolio. And then, of course, it exploded in 2020, late in the year, and in 2021. And of course, it's done a couple of big downturns recently too. So that's my experience in the crypto space, but I've been diving into it for the whole 5+ year period, learning about these different protocol that are out there and figuring out which are the best ones to be in. Because I still think when all is said and done over the next few years, probably 80+% of these cryptos will be gone in the next 3 to 5 years. And you'll just have your core 20% that's left, maybe even less than that. That'll be great. And new companies come out. You know, you think of it from the .com time, when the .com boom hit all these different companies that were out there. Most of them fell, like at least 80% of those went bankrupt, right? And then you had your good ones like Amazon really come out of it, right? These really good companies that had great ideas and great marketing, they made it through it. So now I'm trying to figure out which one are going to be the next Amazon to come out, right? What's the next Amazon in the crypto space?
Yeah, that's cool. I like how you were talking about dollar cost averaging, because I know a lot of people are trying to play that space. Yeah. It's not like the stock markets either. There's not a lot of rhyme and reason.
No, none at all, right? And if you try to go big in on one point, it could be a huge mistake because it could be dropping, or you think you're buying a dip and you're buying a big, and it dips again, buy each little dip, right? And then your dollar cost average, you get your numbers lower and you're better off long-term. But always think long-term perspective. You want to think, 4 or 5 years down the road with these cryptos, the right ones you want to think 4 or 5 years down the road with.
Right. Yeah. And you're right too. A lot of people have to be careful because I dabble in crypto a little bit, and I was just looking at one of the super risky ones I got. It was like, it's like a penny stock. You get like 190 shares for like, or a coin for like $1,500, but I was just looking, it went from $1,500 to $30. Like those are real losses out in there in the world,
Yes, absolutely. It could totally happen. Like Luna, right? Terra Luna, with what happened there, that thing collapsed. I was really, really, really fortunate. I didn't buy any. I thought about buying some over the past year. I'm like, I just don't trust this algorithm. I don't trust the algorithm based thing. And good thing I didn't, because I would have lost a bit of money. So that's example one that can go belly up. Now they're rebranding themselves. I think they'll come back because they're going to do a new coin now, a new Luna coin, and they're not going to base off the algorithm. So we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and what do you recommend for people getting into that? Just dollar cost average too, put money in, they're not afraid to lose.
Totally. So this is all, think of it as gambling money when you go to Vegas, right? Put money in, you can afford to lose. If this is money you need in a very short term, don't put it in this market because this was just way too volatile. We've seen the dips, Bryan, right? So they dip pretty quick and hard. So definitely don't want to do that. Dollar cost average. If you're going to be into it for the next year or two, say, just put, $20 a day in if you can, or $20 a week, $100 a month, whatever you feel comfortable with doing. That's the best way to do it. Dollar cost average in, and get into the good ones initially. If you don't know, get into Bitcoin as much as you can. Bitcoin's going to be around. It's been around for a while. Bitcoin Cash, some of these other ones that are good, solid ones that have been around for a period of time.
Cool. So pretty much invest in real estate, take a
Yeah.
small portion of your profits, then gamble with it, then the shiny object stuff,
Totally right. And then so let's say you got into cryptos and it really shot up. Pull some of that money out, right? Take some of those profits out, and then ride with house money if you can. Maybe take your initial investment out and just ride with the house money. Then it doesn't matter what happens, right? At that point, because it was all just found money.
Yeah, that's smart. So you're saying you stick $1,000 in there and it goes to $2,000, pull 1,000 back out. Literally all that extra $1,000 is free money. It could go to zero. And still,
yeah, totally. That's probably your safest, best way to do it, and growing your portfolio.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so let's talk about real estate here, because that's interesting. So you're doing deals all across the country. You're buying sight unseen, right? How are you doing that?
That's what everybody asks, right? How you doing the sight unseen? Well, luckily for us, for the most part, because they're bank owned, if they're non-occupied properties, we can usually get some pictures of the interior, or there's an agent we can reach out to. And if there's no listing agent attached to it, we'll try to find an agent in the area, one of these small mom pop shops that knows the area, that particular market pretty well, that hopefully can get into the property, take some pictures, give us an idea of what it needs, and we know what kind of repairs are going to be needed. And if we decide to take it down or buy it and then rehab it, hopefully they have a lot of the contractors that we can use. That's been our best experience so far, is using the realtors' referrals for contractors. They've been reliable and affordable too. They've been really, really good for us overall. Better than me going into a new market and try to find a contractor myself. I've had more failures than I've had successes. But with the realtors, it's been great, because you think about it from the contractor's perspective, those realtors give so many referrals. They don't have to pay for any marketing. They're constantly getting work from these realtors. So they don't want to screw up a job and let the realtor down where they're not going to refer them anymore. So that's been our best source for us. But yeah, sight unseen. So now we're getting eyes on it with having an agent in there and getting an idea what the market's like. Because you don't want to just blindly bid on a property, right? There could be foundation issues that you don't know of. So you want to do as much research as you can. So we'll target, say, if an auction is coming up and there's 150 properties in it, we'll target maybe 10 to 15 of those markets, or of those properties, hone in on them, and then have our VAs pull some data on them, have the agent give us their feedback, and then we'll bid it based off that, because then we'll know the maximum allowable offer, and then we'll know the repairs, kind of a ballpark of repairs needed. And then we can back into it and figure out, all right, can we still buy this and still wholesale it to another investor who's either going to keep it as a rental or fix and flip?
Gotcha. So now dealing with the agents, like what's their incentive? That you give them the listing?
Yeah, give them a listing. And usually if they're being helpful in the beginning, me too, I make sure I get them onto the buy side, acquisition side as well. So they get that front end commission, which is usually small with the auctions, unfortunately. But then they'll get the backside commissions, and I give them full commissions, right? Because they're doing extra work above and beyond for me. So they get the full commission. It's like a guaranteed listing you're going to get.
That's cool. Okay. So you're finding now auctions. How hard are they to find the deals? Like, are they just, I don't do much on the auction side. I normally just do the online stuff. Like, how hard are the auctions to find, and how, like, the credible places where you can literally buy houses from?
Yeah, totally. So, the big ones, the big player out there is auction.com. That's one everybody knows of. But there's other ones out there like Hubzu, Zome, Hudson and Marshall, which is now, I think they were bought out by Service Link, Realty Bid, Auction Network, and there's a few other smaller outfits out there too, and more local auction markets as well. But basically, they're getting them all from, whether it's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, all these different ones. They're putting them on their platforms to list and sell these properties. Some of them, more often than not right now, a lot of them are occupied, probably a good 40 to 50%, where typically when you look at these in years past, very few are occupied, maybe 10 to 20%. But that's switched with the advent of the HUD CWCOT program, which basically is everything that got foreclosed on before that was a HUD property, an FHA property, or a VA property would go into the HUD home store. Their objective about 10 years ago was get rid of the HUD home store So they started giving it to auction.com, Hudson and Marshall, Zome, among others, and a lot with Realty Bid. So basically they're deplatforming the HUD home store probably in the next 5 to 10 years. That probably will be all gone, and all their auctions will then go on to these platforms. But what enables them to do is they don't have to worry about getting rid of the tenants in a lot of these if they're occupied, or the homeowners. They just list it as an occupied property and try to sell it right after they foreclose on it. Literally a week or two after they foreclose on it, this is going on to the auction platforms.
So then that becomes your problem.
Yes, it becomes our problem if they're occupied. So that's why we'll usually, especially in off markets and markets we're not super familiar with, we'll target the vacant properties. But if we have boots on the ground, we have good people, we know we can evict and get rid of people easily enough, we'll still go to this occupied, because we'll get a deeper discount on the occupied property than the vacant property, just because the unknowns with the condition. Generally, you're getting about 25% discount on an occupied property as compared to a vacant property.
Okay, and I guess you just need to know the area's guidelines on how to get them out of there.
Totally. So that's why you want to be in certain states. If you want to go political on it, it's like you want to be in a red state, right? The blue states are really typically hard to evict, way less landlord friendly, where the red states are generally better. But even dive deeper in that, where states like Texas, where it's really easy to get rid of people, compared to maybe a Georgia or Florida or another state. So you want to be state specific on that too.
Yeah, that's interesting. So now on these websites like auction.com, is that like just going on buying a house like on eBay? Or like what's the process?
It's like eBay. So the thing to think about it a little bit differently, obviously other than eBay is owned by just a typical homeowner, where these are all owned by banks. So if you go on these platforms, I know this happened to many investors, they bid on these properties, they get them under contract, they find out they don't like it, they let it go. Well, the auction companies will ban you if you make a habit of this, do it more than once. A buddy of mine who was doing this initially in the beginning, switching to auctions, got 4 under contract with Hudson and Marshall, decided not to close on any of them. And they're like, your history, you're never coming back. They ban them from the platform for life. Usually they won't go that harsh, but when it's 0 for 4, it's not a good sign. I warned them that, but that's why you want to go in there and have an idea what you're doing, have an idea of what price point is, right? Rather than just throwing numbers out there. And it's easy enough to just go on Zillow and find out what the value of that property is in that particular neighborhood. So it's easy enough to figure that out yourself. Now, the hard part is how much repairs does it need, that kind of thing. And that's where you're going to rely on the agent, the local agent, or the listing agent, whichever one you end up going with.
Right. Now you help people walk them through this process too, right? To show them like what you've done. And I'm sure you made a whole bunch of mistakes learning as well.
Yes, hugely so. So big part of the learning process, big part of the things they get. I have a couple of videos where I just walk through bidding on certain properties, and I'll explain why this is not a good property to bid on, and this one's a good property to bid on, right? Could learn from my mistakes I've made over the years. Basically, these ones that are train wrecks that look like they need everything are not the ones you want to be bidding on. They're really hard to get rid of, right? You're looking to try to get something the least work as possible, just like in a direct mail campaign. You would look for the same thing, right? So you're looking for the ones that don't have huge issues, whether it's water issues or if you're in a flood zone or things like that. We avoid those like the plague. That's one of our first things that we won't bid on. But yeah, we teach them how to do all that, and we've even gotten more so into it this year. We're kind of almost doing a done with you program, where our new students are coming on board and we're joint venturing with them on deals, kind of walking them through the process, showing them how we do a wholesale or fix a flip, or we teach them how to do it, and we make them work with the contractor as well. But we're involved with them step by step, right there with them.
That's solid, and that's huge too. Especially people like I know the first deals I did, it was just a mess. Like, and you learn, and it's really expensive. So if you can work with someone that's actually done it before, it's valuable stuff there.
So that's what we're getting the feedback from our students. They love this. This is their favorite part. And I get it too, because I would love this back in the day when I first started in 2001 as well. But it wasn't available back in the day. And I think we're going to see more and more programs become that done with you if it's successful, right? And most of our students are pretty successful, and usually they pay for their education in their first deal. So hopefully that continues, knock wood, but it's going to be good for the foreseeable future right now in the auctions, because all these foreclosures that were backlogged are now coming out, and the inventory is starting to really climb on these auction platforms, and they expect it to continue to grow throughout this year. So, and then the next year as well.
Now, is there a lot of competition in auctions? Like, how does the process work? You just go on and bid in? Is it like how many people you competing with? Run us through that process.
Great question. It really is. It varies market by market. So we don't have much competition. And then speaking with the hierarchy at Zome, at Hubzu, and auction.com, they tell me there's really only a few players that are big buyers like ourselves out there. There's only a few of us out there. One of them happens to be a fund. It's not a big fund, right? It's more of a family fund. And then other ones are just people that are bidding in certain markets, right? So say there's a St. Louis buyer, there could be a lot of St. Louis competition out there because it's a great buy and hold market as well as a fix and flip. Same with Kansas City. So what we end up targeting because that is we go to the secondary and tertiary markets as ones where you have way less competition. And when you're bidding on that property, most of the time it's just you bidding on it, or maybe you and one other person bidding on it. So you don't have a whole lot of competition. We're always looking for the low line for, Bryan, you want to get the best deals possible. We don't care where it is, but if we're picking up something for 50,000 and we know we could sell for 75 or 80,000, we're happy. So we don't care where that property is.
Yeah, that's good. What kind of mistakes, like what are some of the top mistakes you see guys trying to do auctions making?
With the vacant ones, and this is what we've seen, and even on our end before with these properties, the biggest mistakes made are getting a property you didn't do enough homework on it. You found out there were foundation issues later. Almost every time you have foundation issues, you either lose money or close to losing money, right? I've lost as much as I think it was around 40 grand on a deal last year because it just had so many foundation issues. The more we tore the place apart, the more we found and the more we had to fix. So you can run into that. And that's where you want to make sure you have a contractor, somebody there that really can put their eyes on it, film the foundation. So we'll send people out there, take pictures of the foundation, just to make sure everything looks good. If they get inside the basement walls, make sure there's no cracks in the walls or floors, all those kind of things. So that's the biggest mistake people make. The other one is, so a newer person getting in there, just trying to go into different markets, a bunch of maybe too many at one time, and then end up pulling their hair out because, all the time trying to figure out these different contacts, these different markets. So we try to teach them focus locally in a very, very beginning, or your local market and maybe one other market. Once you get comfortable with that process, and then you can start expanding.
Okay, that's smart too. Yeah, because if you're just getting into it, even if you're just getting into real estate, you still know contractors. You can even ask friends and stuff you can find reliable people.
Yes. Yeah, it is. That is our biggest challenge, I think, as real estate investors right now. People do fix and flips, finding good contractors, right? It is the hardest process right now. Just not enough good ones out there. And then you're waiting for everything because the windows are delayed or the siding's delayed or, whatever thing you ordered is taking a lot longer, whether it's appliances or whatever. So these things do delay. So we try to do more wholesale deals because of that, where you're doing smaller scale stuff, maybe replacing a kitchen or a bathroom vanity, maybe a toilet. And all these are in stock stuff. And then when we're looking at doing kitchens, we try to do Lowe's or Home Depot off the shelf cabinetry if we can on a wholesale deal. But we try not to do kitchens as much as we can on a wholesale. Usually you just want to kind of paint the cabinets if you can, maybe slap new countertops on them, maybe put some backsplash up, new flooring, new paint, new carpet, and you're moving on. That's been our model for the past 2 years, and that's done pretty well.
Yeah, and that's a good model too, because I even know, speaking of foundations, I've replaced foundations in properties and it sucks. It takes a lot of money, takes a lot of time, and there's all different kinds of things. It's almost worth paying a little bit more for the properties that are nicer.
Agreed. Yeah, totally. And that's we've gone more and more over the years now. So this is a good thing for newer people to look at too. Don't target big houses, right? Houses that are over 3,000 square feet, 3,000 to 4,000 square feet, because your cost per square foot can be substantial in an old house that's large, like an old farmhouse. We did an old farmhouse before. You can pour a ton of money into those properties because all the unknown. You're going to have knob and tube wiring, plaster everywhere. Right now, if you're ripping plaster walls down, you got a huge mess there. You're definitely going to run into some stuff foundation-wise that you're going to have to fix and do because it's an older house and it's settled a lot, right? Even if it's foundationally secure, it could still have some cracks and stuff that just people don't like and unevenness and stuff. So don't target the big properties. Your best thing when you're new going in there is look for that 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 to 2,000 square foot home, right? That's kind of newer, maybe 1970 and newer. 80 and newer, 90 and newer is always great. We're looking for now 2000 and newer for a lot of our properties, especially the townhouses and stuff.
Yeah. And even I like the 3 bedrooms too, because you can move them quick.
Yes.
Or if you're renting them, you can get rental, like 2 bedrooms, no good. Big houses, you're limited.
Yep.
3 bedrooms, 2 bath are really good.
They're the perfect rental model, right? Your 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or maybe a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. Those are your perfect rental models, enough for your family, right? And they're not super expensive. So you have a big pool of renters in there, potential tenants for sure.
Yeah. Now, how are people buying them? Do you have to come in with cash, or what's the deal on auctions?
You do. So the caveat, the distinction between us and direct mail or pay-per-click is they can assign those contracts. So with us, we can't assign these contracts. So we got to come in, we got to close on these properties and resell. Now, there are a lot of times in our typical market, we'll do a lot of back-to-back closings. Let's say we do 50 wholesale deals in a year. Of those 50, we might do 15 of them that are back-to-back closings. So we have the buyer coming, we're buying it that day, and the seller's coming in and buying it that same day. And there's even certain states, not to get too deep into it, but there's states that have wet fund rules and dry fund rules. So there's states like, I believe it's Texas, and Arizona might be another one, where my money, like I put my earnest money deposit down on this property. I have a buyer who's going to buy it. I can actually use their funds to close on it my end, so I don't have to bring the rest of the funds in. So if you're new, you don't have a ton of money, but you have enough to make some earnest money deposits, maybe you target those markets, find that title company that'll work with you and do that. And then you're just going to try to do a back-to-back closing as often as you can. And in this market, you can do that. We just have found, because there's less inventory going on throughout real estate in general, right, whether you're doing direct mail or the auctions, we want to maximize as many deals as we can. So instead of just wholesaling a bunch of them and making 10 to 15,000, we're wholetailing. So we're making 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50,000 on some of these that we wholetail. So a little different market. When the market goes back to a more normal market that we're used to, then you're going to do more wholesaling, turning it, because you're going to have more deals to go through.
Right. So that's also interesting things to know too. Work with someone like Paul, yeah. I wouldn't know that. You can use other people's money, do double closings, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's the greatest thing. And that wet fund rule compared to the dry fund rule, for those people want to look it up, do that wet fund states, dry fund states on Google, and you'll find out those states allow you to do it. But not only that, you have to find a title company that will allow you to do it as well, because not all of them will conform to it. Right? Depends what the writers say.
Yep. So we got real estate and crypto. Where do you see those crossing? Like people starting to do buy like crowdfund houses with crypto, things like that. Like, do you see anything happening like that?
So that is happening. It's already kind of started. We had our first deal in Florida that went down this year. A house was sold as an NFT on OpenSea, and I think it was sold for roughly around $631,000 worth of Ethereum. You're going to start seeing more and more people do that. Although OpenSea is a dangerous one. Think about it with Ethereum. The thing I don't like about Ethereum is it's got high gas fees. So you could be going in there and spending an extra $1,500, $2,000 on gas fees if you're in at the wrong time. Whereas if you're on another NFT platform, you won't pay those same gas fees. It might be pennies or a couple of bucks, in comparison to them. So we're starting to see that. We're definitely starting to see some of the crowdfunding come into play for these cryptos. If you make a property an NFT, people can crowdfund it and buy it as partial ownership of this NFT. And there are different companies out there that help people with doing that. So that's going to become more and more mainstream over the next 3 to 5 years.
See, and that's really interesting too, because you can get a property, say $100,000 for an even number, and you can just sell 1,000 pieces of it or something.
Sell fractional ownership of it, right?
Right. Yeah. Which is going to get really hairy with the SEC and all those. Like, who knows what's going to happen there?
Yeah. Right now, it's a wild west in this space. So you do it until they say, "Oh, you can't do this anymore," and then you reconfigure and readjust from there. But yeah, it's the truth. It's the wild west. So do it while you can. If you know what you're doing, make sure you know what you're doing first.
What do you think about NFTs?
So NFTs are really, really evolving. I think you and I had a conversation about this a few weeks ago. It used to be, just digital artwork, right? That's all it was. Now it's evolving into other things. Down the road, your iPhone will become an NFT. It'll be an NFT so it'll show your ownership in a blockchain, right? As your NFT. Your health medical records will become NFTs. Hopefully soon, deeds will be recorded on a blockchain, and those deeds will become NFTs, right? They're going to show your ownership. Anything that shows ownership is going to end up becoming an NFT, and it's coming up soon. And the other thing I'm kind of excited about is the music side of NFTs. So now artists could go around Sony. They don't have to go through these record labels anymore. They can go direct to consumer if they want and decide, a lot of times these record labels, they want to come out with a song and make it sound a certain way, and the record labels don't want any part of that. Well, now they could just go around their label, just send it directly to the consumer. Snoop Dogg started one. He has the first, I guess it's basically NFT record label being set up. And I'm sure there's going to be many more to follow. But think about it this way. You could put out just 10,000 of the single. And how much is that going to be worth, especially on your first mint of it, right? If it becomes wildly popular, you could do a second and third mint. It won't be as valuable. But for an entertainer, for a musician, you have potential chance to make a lot more money with NFTs down the road.
Yeah, my brother was actually looking. He just bought an NFT from some guys, they're in a band. They're like a B-level band. Mm-hmm. And some of the NFTs, depending on the rarity, come with, hey, steak dinner with the drummer.
I love that. That's a great idea. Great idea, right?
Yeah.
You can do so much more with these than you could do in a traditional old financial system that we're getting away from now, right? This is our new financial system, these cryptos and the NFTs. It's gonna be a whole new, different digital age for us, Web 3.0. You keep hearing the language for that, but everything's gonna be different, have more direct ownership. It's gonna be hopefully better in a lot of ways, but it'll probably be worse in other ways too, because now everything will be tracked. It's much easier to track us and know exactly everything we buy and everything that we like.
Yeah, so like in a gold rush, the guys that make all the money are the guys selling the shovels.
Guys selling the shovels.
What do you think the shovels are in crypto?
Great question. That is really, really a great question. I don't know. I'm guessing some of these people that mint some of these NFTs will be like some of the shovel makers, and they'll make a fortune off it. And these things might go down in value over the long term. But that is a great question. Who is the shovel makers and the pickaxe makers, right? In this current gold rush that we have here in cryptos. This remains to be seen. We're going to find out soon enough. But hopefully, the people that have invested into the original ones that have been around for a little while, and hopefully they have staying power, will be the ones rewarded and be the shovel makers. Hopefully they'll be.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting too, because there's so much happening with it's just the technology. You're right. It's like the .com boom. And look what happened there. 99% of the places are gone, but the ones that survived evolved. So in 10, 20 years, what's this going to evolve to? It's going to be interesting.
Right. I wanted some of these old platforms, or was it not Real Space? What was the one before Facebook that came out?
MySpace.
MySpace. Thank you. MySpace. So you don't want to be in MySpace. Obviously, you want to be in Facebook, right?
Right.
So you're going to want to be in those type of, and Amazon as compared to, there's these other online shipping companies or shopping cart, or there was an old grocery one that failed, a million of them that failed, right? And there was just one that came through it. So yeah, you want to be in the right ones. Most are going to fail. And the same is true in this crypto space. Remember, it's technology. It follows the NASDAQ. It's 90% correlated to the NASDAQ right now. So as the NASDAQ drops, this does because it's technology. Although, Bryan, this week I did notice for the first time, the correlation stopped for like 4 or 5 days in a row, where the NASDAQ was going down and cryptos plateaued. And then last couple of days, the NASDAQ is going up and cryptos have not. So it may have decoupled. We'll see. At some point, it's going to decouple. I have a feeling it's more just like a weird little blurb, but it is a tech, right? These are tech stocks technically that are just not on the stock market.
Yeah, 100%. And you're right too, because most of them won't be around. So if I'm hearing you correctly, if you're going to put money into crypto, most of the, like 80% of your money you're putting into crypto or high volume, put it into Bitcoin, into really stable coins, and then just put a small percentage, because a lot of the other ones aren't going to be here, but still get your finger into it. Still get your
totally. So you hit the nail on the head, and that's, I think, the best investment strategy, right? So Bitcoin, your bigger ones, your Ethereums, your Cardanos, your Thetas, your Polkadots, and these different ones that are the good ones that have been around for a long time now. Go with them. And then if you want to take a chance, like I have, and I showed it to you guys at the last mastermind meeting, right? Where my top 10 low cap gems, right? Where they're all say 5 cents or under, all these cryptos are 10 cents and under. Invest a little bit in each, say it was $100 each of these 10. All you need is one to take off. The rest could just collapse and you're going to be all right. You'll end up making more from that one than anything close to being wiped out, right? So you're going to be in a better shot. That's your gambling. And when those go up, or if multiple go up, get out of them and put it back into Bitcoin or stablecoin, and not an algorithmic stablecoin.
Yeah, it's good. So, hey, Paul, so if anyone wants to reach out to you, so if they want to reach out to you, number one, for help with the real estate, what's the best way to contact you?
So REOauctionacademy.com. That's the best way. So it's reoauctionacademy.com, or fliprealestatevirtually.com is another way to get into the same thing there. And if you want to follow me on my podcast, it's thevirtualinvestor.co, and that's the Flipping Out podcast.
Okay, cool. And we'll put all those in the show notes too for anybody listening. You can just check them out and click the link. And then for crypto, you help people in that space too. How do people reach out on that?
I do. So I have a Patreon channel called the Crypto Degen, and I think it's Patreon.com/Crypto Degen, and you'll be able to see it there, or just go in through Patreon, just do Crypto Degen, and you should see that there, and you'll see a picture of me pop up. So yeah, and that's pretty inexpensive. You can do as low as $97 a month to follow a lot of the info I give you in there.
Okay, cool. And yeah, guys, that's patreon.com/crypto, CRYPTODEGEN.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah. So you can see it's crypto DEGEN.
Yes. Absolutely.
Right, Paul. Hey, well, thanks for coming on, man. This was great. We'll have to do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Bryan. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, man. Hey, thanks for everyone for listening. Go out there and crush it and close some deals.